Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications, patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Mark Leibovit, editor and publisher of the Leibovit VR newsletters, also known as VRTrader.com. He's speaking to us from Arizona. Welcome back to the show, Mark.
Glad to be here, and it's not raining here.
In Vancouver, yeah, it starts in September, usually ends in May, with a couple of days just to get you optimistic, to remind you, what the hell is that bright object in the sun? Or the bright object in the sky. It's called the sun. See, I even forgot its name. Mark, do we have a special offer for our listeners?
Yeah, let's continue using the 2021 half off. That's 2021 HALFOFF. And you go to VRTrader.com, and any of the newsletter subscriptions that are up there, if you enter 2021 half off in the promo code in the order form, you can get 50% off for any of our newsletters for whatever time frame you are interested in. I must caution, however, we are raising rates at the beginning of the year, and we also have hopefully we can get it together by the end of the year, our special year-end opportunity letter, which I mentioned last week and the week before, which is just basically a trading opportunity for what we know as a January effect. That is, many stocks that are sold for tax loss reasons or underperformed during the course of the year tend to hit some type of trading bottom in December or sometimes even before, and they become trading opportunities for a bounce, sometimes even beginning late December, but carrying into January and February. So we're going to try to put together a list like we did last year, and that will be a new product offered coming soon.
Everybody keeps paying attention to what the Fed says. Do we pay too much attention to it?
I think so. I mean, it's ad nauseum what the Fed's doing, what they're not doing, and the thing is with the Fed, I mean, they do a lot of stuff that they don't talk about. I mean, we talk about tapering, we talk about, which has to do with the bond market, of course. We had the quantitative easing that Bernanke initiated. We've got the adjustments in interest rates. But, they don't talk about stuff like, the Fed going in there and buying the S&P 500 or the Dow Industrials, or even for that matter, individual stocks, or even the bonds of some individual companies that they're looking to support. And if the Fed's out there, for example, with what I think they are doing, maybe in conjunction with the Treasury Department, Ronald Reagan initiated the Working Group of Financial Markets in his executive order back in 1988. And of course, I think this was going on even before that. And, it's also lovingly known as the Plunge Protection Team, which does exist. If they're out there supporting the market, with infinite cash, in other words, the ability to print infinite money and buy all the S&P or Dow futures they need to get the market moving up again, what's the point in talking about interest rates and how it's going to affect the market? And for 13 years, we're worrying that the Fed's going to raise rates. They took it down during the financial crisis. And there's been chatter on and off. I mean, it's over a decade. I mean, yeah, they uptick a little bit, but they come right back to zero or near zero. So, I mean, it's almost laughable. I mean, history, I guess, repeats itself, and we had huge interest rates, way back in 1979, 1980 time frame, and, way up there, 15, 18% type rates, depending where you were looking. And then, cyclically, you think, well, over a period of 30 or 40 or 50 years, we should, hit a cycle of higher rates. So I guess history says at some point that should happen. but the preoccupation with the rates and the market, the government also has to pay interest on its debt. So if rates go up, we all know this, the debt for the government, their expenses go up. So, are you looking to shoot yourself in the foot? I mean, that's really the question. You want the government to pay higher interest rates and voluntarily commit themselves to doing that by raising rates. So, the best to answer your question is, I mean, I really don't care, because I don't know what effect it really has other than a psychological effect. And even if rates come up, and they do uptick them a little bit, I mean, we're talking historically low levels. I mean, way, way down there. Even if they went up 1 or 2 percentage points, I mean, that's still historically low. I mean, back when I used to be a floor trader decades ago, I mean, you could get what is known as broker call rate. In other words, if you sold out of the money call options or created a credit balance in your account, the floor traders, these are for floor traders, they would get a broker call interest credit to their accounts, which could be 6, 7, or 8% back then. So many traders, would just generate credit balances and live off the interest when interest rates were high. So that would be great, I guess, if that came back. That would help the floor traders. But, at some point we're going to see something. But in the meantime, look at the rates then versus now. Even if they uptick them, it's still negligible. And, the old saw had been for many decades, well, higher rates mean more companies are doing business, and the demand is there for money, and that's good news. And if business is increasing and you're making money, you can afford to pay a little bit more in interest to keep your business going and finance inventory and so forth and so on, expand your company. That seemed to have worked for a long time, but now we got into this mentality of zero or near zero rates or negative rates as we've seen in Europe. So I think bottom line, I'm being long-winded here. I mean, you got to watch the tape. Is the market concerned about it? And the stock market really hasn't been that concerned. It had a little dip a couple of weeks ago in September. Now it's back to new highs again. Looks like it still wants to go to new highs. You got Thanksgiving here in the U.S. coming up. They call it the turkey shoot. Then you got the Santa Claus rally, coming into the December, and seasonality generally says that this is a strong time of year. You got to watch it though after January 1st. Sometimes you get some selling the beginning of the year because people that have profits didn't want to sell, and they want to sell after January 1st, so their taxes are delayed for another year, so some selling could come in the beginning of the year for people who want to lock in profits but didn't want to pay taxes in 2021. So you got to watch the tape and see how the market's reacting to it all, and that's really the bottom line for me, more than whether the Fed's actually tapering or raising rates or not raising rates or jawboning, as Jerome Powell's been doing out there, talking about what their intentions or non-intentions are, and if it's not him, it's one of the board members. So it's sort of a joke over the years with the jawboning, what they're going to do, whether they're giving the market some, inside information by the wording that they use in their reports. So that's sort of it for me. Just watch the tape and let the market tell you what it all means, and that should be enough.
Quite some time ago, I looked at a story that said at the rate that the Bank of Japan was buying up stocks, they would own half of the companies on the Japanese stock exchange, although officially they're not owners at all. Is that what's happening here in North America? The government is slowly taking over businesses and we don't know it?
It could be. It could be. They're not reporting it. We did hear some reports under the Freedom of Information Act a few years ago. There's some recent purchases. I have to do more research, but I remember back in 2008 and 9, it came out of the Freedom of Information Act that, for example, the Fed was buying stock in Harley-Davidson or bonds in Harley-Davidson, which is the motorcycle company. So you start scratching your head, what the hell is the government doing with the Harley-Davidson company? And why isn't that being openly discussed? And I'm sure that's one of possibly hundreds of situations out there. So the average person is just sort of naive about this stuff, or the press doesn't want to talk about it. They don't want to research it. They don't want to get involved in this stuff. I guess they figure they're going to make enemies somewhere. I don't know what it's all about, but it is public information somewhere. And they are doing things which are not considered kosher. What's their role? I guess the Fed has decided, like the Bank of Japan, since they control money, they can do anything they damn please. Which could also mean the manipulation of the commodity markets. We've known for decades through the work of GATA.org that gold has been suppressed, and so I think silver as well, and there's been lawsuits and actually criminal action taken on the part of and successful against people at some of the big banks for manipulation. But their sponsor is the government. The government's behind them with the suppression and the lending of gold, for example. They're just one piece of a big puzzle. So, we knew the government was doing this for decades, and now they got their tentacles in the stock market since 1988 or maybe even before, and Japan, like you say, is doing it. So, do we really have free markets? I mean, I guess that's really what it comes down to. What kind of markets do we really have? We have manipulated markets. They're not really buy, sell, demand type markets. If you have Big Brother there, with a giant purse, willing to do whatever is needed at any time, what's this all about anyway? So I guess, as investors or traders, we're just trying to make a buck. We're not going to change the laws or change what these big boys are doing, so we just try to play along. And I guess you can sleep better at night on a certain level if you think the government is always going to support the market, and it's not to their interest for it to come down, with the exception of perhaps gold or something they don't care about. You don't have to worry about your retirement accounts. Just buy and hold, because even if there's a dip, they're going to come in and bail you out. And, that's, I guess, a positive for the average investor who has to sit worrying that we're going to get a 1929 or a 1987 again. And I suppose if we had the 1987 again, we had a little bit of that in March of 2020 with the COVID crash, but look how fast it came back. And I'm sure it came back for the reasons that I've cited. So I guess it's good for the long-term investor. You buy and hold, go to sleep, and, Big Brother is protecting you.
The U.S. has had its third highest number of strikes in history because people's wages and salaries haven't kept up with inflation for the last 20 years, and they certainly can't keep up with it this year. Is that the hot new trend? Apparently the people at John Deere who are on strike turned down a 20% pay increase over the next few years.
Well, that's interesting. I know for those who are over 65 here in the U.S., they just got, I believe, a 5% increase in their Social Security, which hasn't happened for years and years and years. I really can't answer that. I suppose they're going to have to pay up to satisfy those workers. And once you start seeing job inflation, labor cost increasing, then that's a real, bugaboo. That's one of the big measures that the government uses supposedly to measure inflation, is the cost of wages and so forth. And maybe if that really starts to happen in a big way, that'll give them, that is the Fed, excuse to raise interest rates. But again, how much are they going to raise anyway? Going back to my previous comment. So, very interesting times. You just got to play it out. But ultimately, the purpose of this broadcast, we're trying to figure out what people are supposedly doing or should be doing with their investments. And I guess it gets back to my point a moment ago. Just watch the tape. If the market doesn't care that salaries are going up, or they don't care rates are upticking or might uptick, or tapering may or may not occur, the heck with it. It's irrelevant. When the market tells you it cares, you'll see it. The market will start coming down, big volume, things will change, and that'll give you a clue that at least there's a short-term change in trend.
We'll have more with Mark Leibovit right after this.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Mark Leibovit. Mark, cryptocurrencies, you recognize are probably a permanent phenomena. They've been around for a long time. Why do you think so many people still think they're a temporary thing, just like inflation?
Good question. I don't know. A lot of people thought gold rally was temporary too, and I guess they were right because it didn't last. Topped out last year and it's come down after making new highs. It may be temporary. I don't have a crystal ball forever. All I know is there's an international trend toward it. Ethereum, for example, the second biggest crypto, made new highs the last couple of days, all-time highs. Bitcoin not far behind. and 7,000 other currencies behind it. I mean, cryptocurrencies behind it floating out there. And you're getting a lot of speculative interest from, young people who don't trust the government or like to make money trading the cryptos. One was this Shiba Inu, which is the name of the Japanese dog that Elon Musk was showing in all his visuals behind that Dogecoin, which I affectionately refer to as Doggy Coin. And now we've got, I think I mentioned this last week, I'm being repetitive, then you got Shiba Girlfriend, that's Shiba GF. So you got Shiba Girlfriend, Shiba Inu, which is the dog itself, Dogecoin, which is the one, I think Elon may be involved indirectly or directly in all of these. I know he talked about Dogecoin on his big Saturday Night Live appearance this past summer. It's a trend, and the government wants to get a piece of it too. There's been a lot of talk about the government creating its own cryptocurrency and getting, they want to, monitor everybody and control everybody. And if they converted all your checking account assets, your bank account balances into crypto dollars versus actual real dollars, they could probably track you a little bit better, which is what I think their ultimate goal is all about. So even the governments may get involved, and some rumors are out there that Bitcoin was created by the government or is indirectly related to the government as an experiment to see how it would work out and whether we could track people or not. And you hear all these stories and rumors in the rumor mill on Twitter and everything else about what's behind all this, whether it's just a temporary game until the government figures out what it wants to do. But look at China. Just recently, they banned, Bitcoin, supposedly. Now they're changing their mind about it. First, they try to stop the mining of Bitcoin, so it's illegal. And a lot of the Bitcoin miners went out of the country because they needed energy from, the computer-generated energy banks to generate the energy to mine for the Bitcoin. And then apparently China's backed off from that a little bit. Even Elon Musk was behind Bitcoin, and he got after it because supposedly it wasn't energy wasn't being generated through green energy. But then he said, "Okay, we'll take Bitcoin now if it's being mined by green energy versus regular electrical energy. Using I suppose solar or other vehicles versus fossil fuels." I'm sort of ranting here a little bit. I mean, it's really. It's still a burgeoning area. I mean, my gut feeling is we're still early in the process. People are still first starting to believe it. I mean, there are people who thought Bitcoin was going to go to zero, and I heard it 1,000 times, and now it's all, around, up the 50, 60,000 level. I mean, it could be 500,000 or 1 million. I have no idea. You got to watch the tape. There still seems to be interest in it. It's a worldwide phenomenon. And again, the bottom line behind all of this is people don't trust the governments, they don't trust the currencies, and they want to have something outside the system, and that's what the cryptos really create. So I think the government try to ban it, they would be unsuccessful. It's like trying to ban freedom of speech. I mean, they'll figure out a way to get around it, and there's a push for individuality and freedom. And I think the cryptos is this whole part of the process. So it's a cultural revolution, really, a financial cultural revolution. That's what really the cryptos are all about. So if I'm dead wrong and they all shut down in 2 months, I guess I could be called dumb, but I don't think that's happening. I think you're going to see ups and downs in them, but there's a lot of support for the crypto. And as I mentioned a few moments ago, a lot of young traders. Instead of getting into the stock market or trading penny stocks, I know of instances personally of young people making lots of money in college, buying, for $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000, making, I don't even want to mention the numbers, huge numbers by doing this. Now, of course, kids in college start doing this and they can make a lot of money. Why would it stop? I mean, these are the people that are going to be leading society. Ahead. If they're making money and this is a vehicle that makes sense to them for both purchasing and selling goods and services and also trading and making some money on the currency itself, why you think they're going to vote it out? I don't think so. So, very interesting stuff, Jim. I have to be optimistic, but if you're a trader, these darn things move all over the place. I mean, the Shiba Inu, I even can't give you the number. It was like 0.0000020 or some number. Then it went up 300-400% in one day, and then it started to back off again. This is just one of the current ones. In fact, I was going to mention this to you. I put it in my newsletter. Was it this past week? There was a whole billboard in Times Square, about Shiba Inu. I mean, a giant billboard in Times Square just showing the dog, and flashing there saying, how strong Shiba Inu was, and this is where, you should either invest or get involved. I couldn't believe it was a billboard in Times Square. So something's going on here more than, Wall Street wants to talk about. I mean, the average guy on the major financial networks, is he going to promote Shiba Inu or Bitcoin? No, he's going to talk about Google or Tesla or Microsoft or something. They want to keep the money in-house. They don't want people going out and doing cryptos. They want to keep it in the stock market. So I don't think you're going to get a lot of support from the media until they see a way to make money from it themselves.
Remember, recently El Salvador decided that it would accept Bitcoin as an official currency. You could pay your taxes with and so on. The latest story from El Salvador, the president of El Salvador says he will use some of his country's Bitcoin profits to build 20 schools and an animal hospital.
That's wonderful.
So that's how it's working out for them so far.
Great news. I know Elon Musk over at Tesla, they made some huge number, billion and a half dollars or something from a Bitcoin trade I had read. Very interesting things, Jim, going on.
Any interesting geocosmic events we should be keeping an eye on right now?
I'm always watching. There was some solar flare headed our way the other day, and it created some nice auroras in your part of the world, but no great impact. Keep watching the lunar cycles, keep watching, the moon wobble theory. I keep watching the increase. We start getting reports of more earthquake activity. A lot of interesting stuff going out there. So I think we're going into a period of global cooling, and it's going to be, unfortunately, create a little bit of shortage of crops and other kinds of things on the planet. And this has nothing to do with the global warming theorists. This is just planetary stuff, and we track it all the time, and we put little notices in our newsletter. But I'm not saying that the polar shift's coming tomorrow or the solar flare's hitting tomorrow, but I'm not for one to ignore these things. I pay attention to them because if we get a Carrington event like we did in the 19th century, all bets are off.
The North Pole moves 50 kilometers a year. It used to be in Canada. Within a few years, it'll be in St. Petersburg, Russia. How would the North Pole flipping to the South Pole affect our climate, or would it? Or do we know?
We'd be dead. If you had that type of shift, you're talking about a planetary shift, which would, from what I read, would create 1,000-mile-an-hour winds, probably wipe out civilization, and may have happened in the ancient past, or maybe not the so ancient past, because there's been high civilizations that have been wiped out on this planet. We're finding a lot of archaeological evidence that suddenly these high civilizations have suddenly disappeared. So if you get one of these polar shifts, unfortunately, there's nothing in modern technology that'll protect us. I mean, it's a significant event. You're saying that Antarctica now becomes tropical. And what does that mean in terms of movement of the planet and movement of earthquake activity or continental shift and things like that, which are dramatic, super dramatic planetary events. So let's hope that doesn't happen in our lifetime.
Now we know why Elon Musk and the other billionaires are building spaceships.
Right, and that's part of it. We need an alternate plan because the Earth is not stable. Billions of years, a lot of things have happened. Dinosaurs suddenly disappeared. Whether it was an asteroid or a polar shift, things do happen. And whether they're on 30,000-year or 30 million-year time frames, ultimately there will be a catastrophe on the planet. And it's good to have a backup. It's nice to know you've got another place you can go. It's like people having their home and then a home up in the mountains that they go to in the summer. It would be nice to know that you got a home on Earth, you got a place on Mars or some other place that you can go to if you see something changing on the planet. So that's what it's all about. And frankly, as I've speculated before, and everybody thinks I'm crazy, I think we're already on Mars. I think we're covering up secret government activity and space program that's existed for decades, and I can elaborate that more in another time. But anyway, I think we're much more advanced than we're being told, but I may be proven wrong.
Wernher von Braun, the mastermind of the V2 rocket in Germany and the Saturn V rocket to the moon, he said the Saturn V, much too powerful for just a moon trip. He said it was designed to go to Mars, and he was surprised that the U.S. wasn't on Mars 9 years after the moon landing. I
agree. I mean, the Nazi technology has been way advanced. It was at Operation Paperclip after World War II. They brought all the chief Nazi scientists, gave them clearance, including Wernher von Braun. And some of the stuff I've read and sketches of stuff that's been released shows advanced craft that were being designed by the Nazis, and there could be stuff out there, and I'm sure there's stuff out there we're not being told about that they had designed. So yeah, absolutely. I think part of it could be Nazi technology and some of these great Nazi scientists that were brought over, including Wernher von Braun, and like I said, I think there were some programs initiated that are not being discussed, that we implemented some of this advanced technology, and now it's being implemented, and we're doing some things that people wouldn't believe possible.
Mark, thank you so much for chatting with us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
My guest has been Mark Leibovit, editor and publisher of the Leibovit VR newsletters, also known as VRTrader.com. He was speaking to us from Arizona. If you have any questions for Mark or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@HowStreet.com. Find us on Twitter @HowStreet, our YouTube channel, Talk Digital Network. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.